The caucus meeting of August 16th, 2022 will now come to order at 7:45 p.m. Present are all of council, the mayor, law director, HR director, economic director, service director, recreation director, and guests. If there are no additions or corrections, the caucus meeting minutes of June 21st, 2022 and August 2nd, 2022 are approved as written. There are 5 items on the agenda being requested for suspension this evening. The first is Resolution 2022-67, which is on second reading. Mayor Jones, would you like to speak to this?
Mr. President, 2 items, Resolution 67 and Ordinance 69. The administration is not asking for suspension on either of those.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Next is Resolution 2022-70 on second reading. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are requesting suspension of the rules on 70 as it was heard in committee, and there is a second set of tracing that is due to ODOT the first week of September. So it would be helpful if council would authorize this contract with Osborne Engineering for them to accomplish that task.
Thank you, Mayor. Any objections from council to suspension? Moving on first reading, being requested for suspension is Resolution 2022-74. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution is authorizing us to make application to the State of Ohio Public Works Commission for the State Capital Improvement Program funding for the South Interceptor EQ tank project. And the funding deadline to apply for this grant is coming up, and our consultants, CT Consultants, just made us aware of this opportunity. So we would like to move forward with council's authorization to apply for that grant funding for this project.
Thank you, Mayor. Any objections from council to suspension on Resolution 2022-74? Councilman?
Mr. President, not an objection, but what's the breakdown of the grant? Is it 80-20 or what is?
Let's see here, Mr. President. Yep. Director Upton could let you know about the specifics.
So the OPWC grant is, it's not a required match. It's incredibly competitive. It's a maximum amount of funding of $500,000 for the project. This is also in complement to our DEFA loan application the council authorized earlier this year. We're just trying to get that cost as low as we possibly can.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, just for council's knowledge, a reminder that this EQ basin is going to be on the property where Spruce School sits. So this was part of something that was authorized a while ago, and that parcel was, given to us by the schools in order to complete this project. So this is sort of that first phase that we had already planned on doing.
Thank you. And providing some much-needed flood relief on the western end. Lastly, being requested for suspension is Ordinance 2022-76 on first reading. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This issue had been discussed at length with council, and we are going to ask that this issue be repealed so that further discussions and studies could be done.
Thank you. Assigning legislation, ordinances 2022-72 and 73 will be assigned to Building, Zoning, and Development, and Resolution 2022-75 will be assigned to Finance, which leads us into scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. Councilman Lippert, would you like to schedule a BZD meeting?
Thank you, Councilman Broussard. Yes, I'll schedule a BZD meeting at 7 o'clock and would ask that the Economic Development Director and any other designee be present.
Do you have an approximation on how long that meeting will take?
I don't, about 20 minutes.
7 to 7:20 it is.
Thank you.
Councilman Glassman, would you like to schedule finance?
Yes, do finance just for item 75 at 7:20 PM.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have anything else they'd like to bring up this evening? Anything from the administration?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, the caucus meeting of August 16th, 2022 is adjourned at 7:51 PM.
Do whatever you gotta do.
Wayne, you ready? The council meeting of August 16th, 2022 will now please come to order at 8:01 PM. The audience is invited to join council in reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Broussard.
Present.
Ms. Gilchrist.
Here.
Mr. Glassburn.
Here.
Ms. Heeman.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Limpert.
Present.
Mr. Scarl.
Present.
Ms. Williamson.
Here.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of June 21st, 2022 and August 2nd, 2022, and the special council meeting minutes of June 27th, 2022 are approved as written. The following legislation is considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On second reading is Resolution 2022-70, and on first reading is Resolution 2022-74 and Ordinance 2022-76. Moving into reports, Mayor Daley Jones, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Mr. President, thank you. On Monday, August 8th, the North Olmsted Police Department building was struck by lightning. Due to the lightning strike, dispatch temporarily lost all radios or consoles, showing the need for redundancy and other security measures. The consoles were down for approximately 1 hour before full capability was restored. In the interim period, our dispatchers used walkie-talkies to communicate. Council should expect to see these items in the 2023 city budget. In addition, the city has lost 4 computers and the live fingerprint scanner. We are currently working in concert with our insurance company to replace these items. The North Olmsted Police Department was just awarded $45,687 for the school resource officer position. This position is full-time. There is still some funding remaining to help cover a part-time school resource officer position. In the early morning hours of Monday, August 15th, the B shift at Fire Station 1 had a 48-year-old male patient in full cardiac arrest. He progressed through several pulseless heart rhythms. CPR was performed along with a secured airway, and ultimately the patient regained a heart rate with a good blood pressure and was transported to Fairview Hospital. I want to commend our paramedics and firefighters who epitomized professionalism and teamwork. Mark your calendars for Homecoming 2022. It will be celebrated Thursday, August 25th through Sunday, August 28th. In the Big Tent from 7 to 9 p.m., Friday, August 26th, we will be hosting a meet and greet with myself and our city directors, in addition to having Miss Wheelchair Ohio 2022, Krista Allison, on hand to discuss her platform of handicapped accessibility. We will be featuring a local artist and photographer who will both be with us to personally sign a limited number of edition of collages and note cards that will be for sale of the city of North Olmsted. We recently commissioned the collages and note cards, which were designed especially for our city. Fireworks will then take place at dusk at Great Northern Mall on Sunday, August 28th. There will be food trucks serving beginning at 5 p.m. There's special recognition I'd like to make council be aware of tonight. Our Learn to Skate USA program here has been recognized for enrolling 530 skaters to the ice this year. Our city's program is ranked #1 in our state because of this, and 76th in the nation. The city will be receiving a recognition plaque heralding this achievement and will also be highlighted in the winter issue of Learn to Skate USA, the magazine, as well as in Skating Magazine, which is read by all members of U.S. figure skating. I'm sure you've all noticed the gas line project that started yesterday at the intersection of Dover and Lorraine. It will continue to be congested because of the gas line project by Dominion. Expect delays between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. when Dominion employees will be working. The approximate end date for the project is September 25th. And finally, just a reminder that in collaboration with the Cleveland Greater Food Bank, the Maple Intermediate School PTA will provide free, fresh produce for the North Olmsted community at Maple School from 4:30 until 6:30 p.m. on August 23rd. This is a drive-through service, so you do not need to leave your vehicle when you go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Law Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a brief report. Since we were last together, obviously, we've spent enough amount of time working with our clerk of council on the referendum matter for 2022-55. So a significant amount of time was spent in the past week dealing with issues relative to that. In addition, I may have mentioned previously that there were 3 pieces of litigation ongoing with respect to motor vehicle accidents. So we had one at the corner of Stearns, and that brought about North Olmsted versus Willoughby. That's set for mediation on the 6th of October. Damages were $23,000 to the light and traffic light and mast arm. Michael Bramante is a country club, another accident on Country Club. That's just been filed. We're still awaiting an answer to be filed. Damages in that case are over $12,000. And Abdallah was a motor vehicle accident on Dover and Cottonwood. That one has significantly higher damages. Once these vehicles leave the right-of-way and they take out the control boxes for the telephone or for the light system, it gets ridiculous. So that one could be near $50,000 in damage. Frequently, when we file these, there is no insurance, so we're trying to see if we can find a way to recover. Otherwise, it comes out of our casualty loss fund, which comes out of the taxpayers' pockets, and I will do what I can to ensure that it comes from somewhere other than it's going to come from their pockets before it comes from everybody else's. So that's the plan there. I'll keep you up to date on those. We also had, from time to time, we do have the occasion to file the enforcement actions concerning registered sex offenders living too close to the prohibited properties in North Olmsted, schools usually. We're able to file 2 complaints. One complied and has since relocated. Another individual is seeking counsel and has not been able to do so at this time. But when he does, we'll go ahead and proceed with seeking an order to have him comply with the law. Also, we had a long-standing maintenance case. Years ago, we had a case involving a resident who had a pig. I don't know if anybody remembers that. She had a pig in the backyard in a doghouse. I think we've been in some form or another of ongoing rounds of maintenance issues or doghouse issues or what have you for the better part of a decade. But we did get some folks to chip in and help with some maintenance items over there. I know some of our guys here were assisting in it to try to clean that up, and we did get compliance, and we did dismiss the case because we try to get compliance. That's what we're trying to do here. But hopefully we can not come back to that particular individual, and compliance has been achieved and compliance will be maintained. So that's our plan. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. Director of Finance Kopfer, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do, Mr. President. The Finance Department was the first to move our server files to the cloud, commonly known to us as Box. The process had its challenges, but we learned from it to make it a smoother transition for the departments who come next. A special shout out goes to Donna Murphy and Keith Sperling, who along with our IT department made it all possible. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. Moving into Council Committee reports, Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee, do you have a report?
No, not this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Building, Zoning and Development Committee, do you have a report?
I do have a report, Mr. President. Thank you. Building, Zoning and Development met on August 9th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. Present were committee members Heeman, Limpert, and Williamson. Councilwoman Gilchrist, Glassburn, Scarl, the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, HR Director, Economic Development Director, and Safety Director, as well as the Recreation Director. On the agenda were ordinances 2022-68, 2022-69, and Resolution 2022-70. 2020-68 is a ordinance related to Fix Our Storefront Renovation Grant Program. And in that discussion of legislation, the Economic Development Director laid out the framework of the application process and who would be eligible and not eligible to participate in the program, and requirements in order to maintain eligibility. And after discussion, the motion passed by a vote of 3-0 to recommend. Next was ordinance 2022-69, which is an ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of North Olmsted to enter into an agreement with Caucus County Planning Commission to provide professional services associated creating a geographic information system, or GIS-based zoning map. The Economic Development Director noted that this would allow us to leverage the same GIS software as the county for our website for residential use to display zoning maps. And the motion passed by a vote of 3-0. And last was Resolution 2022-70, which is a resolution dispensing with RFP and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Osborne Engineering for purpose of providing engineer service for the Great Northern Bridge Aesthetic Program. And this one was recommended, the vendor was recommended as they were already selected to do the work as part of the state project. And this would streamline efficiencies as well as ensure that the signage program was delivered in the most effective way, and that motion was passed by a vote of 3-0, and the meeting concluded at 7:19 p.m. Mr. President, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Glassburn, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report?
Yes, I do, Mr. President. Finance met virtually on August 9th of 2022 at 7:20 p.m. President were committee members Glassburn, Limpert, and Williamson, as well as council members Gilchrist, Heeman, Kelly, and Scarl, as well as the mayor, Assistant Law Director O'Malley, the HR Director, Economic Director, Safety Director, and Special Assistant to the Mayor. There were 4 pieces of legislation on the docket. 2022-64 concerns stop-loss insurance for our health care, which covers our items over $100,000 in cost. That was recommended favorably 3-0. Next was -65, which was to put our plans examiner and building commissioner services up for bidding. The contract for those services expire at the end of the year, and that was favorably recommended as well, 3-0. -66 was a similar item regarding city engineering services. That was favorably recommended, 3-0. And finally, -67 concerned the creation of a solicitation of statement of qualifications request for a grant writer for the city. And that was also favorably approved, 3-0. And the meeting concluded at 7:53. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report?
No report, but can I have a moment of personal privilege?
Of course.
So, last evening, about 9 p.m., on West 231st Street, there was an apparent intoxicated individual behind the wheel of his car in a driveway who threw his car in reverse, went across 231, in through somebody's front yard, through their bushes, and destroyed their front porch, throwing bricks and everything, all kinds of directions. So North Olmsted Police showed up quickly and efficiently, gave that individual a ride in one of their cars, and handled the accident very well. I just wanted to thank the police department.
Thank you. Councilman Scarl, Chairman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report?
No report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Gilchrist, Chairwoman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report?
I do not, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving into audience participation. Thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. Public comments offer the opportunity for members of the public to share information and bring issues and concerns to the attention of city council members. It is not a debate, and public comment speakers should not expect a back and forth exchange. Council members may ask clarifying questions of the speaker of city staff or of fellow council members. Those attending city council meetings should show the same respect to others that they wish to have shown to them. If there is anyone in the audience who would like to address council, please come to the podium. State and spell your name and address for the clerk. And if you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city and proceed with your comments. You will have up to 5 minutes.
Jim Burns, BURNS, North Olmsted Chamber of Commerce. I attended virtually the committee meeting on the 9th, but apparently nobody recognized my wave or that, so the comments I was going to make then, I'm going to make now. Ordinance number 2022-68, the storefront improvement grant program is a good idea, but I have a couple questions. One, what is the effect that this is going to have on grandfathered and granted variances on when somebody wants to do a project and it may be considered to be in excess of what's permitted to maintain those variances and grandfather clauses? Anybody have an idea?
Mr. President? Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point to make, but they would still be required to comply with the current code if they seek to make a change to, if they would seek to make a change to the footprint of the building, which I don't think this is really contemplates. It should be bringing the building out into the front yard setback or something like that. But with respect to signage, it could become an issue. There's always an option if somebody is required to bring their property into compliance because they're otherwise, a valid non-conforming use. They always have the option to request the variance to be able to come to the BZBA and seek a variance. But that's, as it comes up, we'll have a close look at that to see if there are any compliance issues. But the code would require them to comply, but also offer them an opportunity to come in and explain why they might have a hardship.
Okay. Next, the program's for-profit organizations, and I was wondering why nonprofits were excluded from, or will be excluded from the program.
Typically, in most cities, the incentive is for for-profit businesses to come in and create jobs and sell products and stuff like that. It's just not a use that you see geared towards nonprofits in many other communities that do this type of incentive program.
Just a comment that there are nonprofits that do employ people and do add to the commerce of the city itself. And lastly, is there any program for notification to the businesses in the city through the city when this program is put in place?
Mr. President, to Mr. Burns, yes, we will be rolling that out over the next 4 weeks. The program will begin to be offered in October, so communication to our businesses will begin shortly here. And we expect to communicate robustly with them so that they're aware of this program and what it could offer them.
Okay. All right.
Mr. President.
Jim Burns, BURNS, 3978 Dover Center Road. I noticed two things in this ordinance. When I was here before it seemed to me like I heard that when there's a program establishing a grant program, that also basically appropriates the money for that program. And what this ordinance does not have in it is the fund that the money is going to be taken from, or if there's a dollar limit on the total amount of grants that will be given.
Mr. Burns, would it be okay if the mayor or her designee get back to you on those 2 points?
Okay.
Okay.
I'd
Thank you.
appreciate it, thank you.
Sure, of course.
No, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jeff Perry. I work for the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association. I represent the dispatchers here. I'm 4805 Lander Road, Orange Village. No, I don't live in North Olmsted, but I've been visiting here for many, many years, representing these dispatchers who have been doing a great job. And I want to first thank you guys for passing this in the near future on an emergency basis to keep dispatch local. Re-examine as much as you'd like, but local is best. You have two people that mention two situations. One, fast response from police. A second, a fire or paramedics coming in to help someone under a full arrest. They both did great jobs, fire and police, but they both started with dispatch and it ends with dispatch. And this community has shown how important it is to have this great dispatch center kept local. Thank you.
I ask that you not, please. Thank you. Marco Cuevas, 3534 Beaumont Drive. I'm here for the support of the dispatchers and everything going on there, but the reason I'm actually up here is actually for the support of 2269, or I'm sorry, 68. Finding out that the grant program is not available for nonprofits. I've been a nonprofit professional for over a decade, and that's like really disconcerting. I'm pretty sure that Horizon, had they still been in their old location and wanted to apply for that grant, they wouldn't be able to do anything with their old location. So, because they're a nonprofit and they employ a lot of people, and they're across multiple counties. So I would urge that it be considered that nonprofits are eligible for it as well. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Seeing no other comments from the audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on third reading, Resolution 2022-63, a resolution introduced by Mayor Jones dispensing with the RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with CHN Housing Partners for the purpose of administering ARPA funding for home repairs and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Councilman.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-63 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2022-63 made by Councilman Limpert and seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassberg?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-63 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on second reading, ordinance 2022-64, an ordinance introduced by Mayor Jones authorizing the Director of Human Resources to solicit proposals for excess insurance coverage for the city healthcare and hospitalization plans for 2023, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval by the Board of Control, to enter into a contract for said insurance coverage. Resolution 2022-65, a resolution introduced by Mayor Jones authorizing the Director of Public Safety to solicit statements of qualification, parens SOQ, and parens, from qualified individuals to provide building official and master plans examiner services to the city, and further authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the individual or firm selected in the SOQ process and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2022-66, a resolution introduced by Mayor Jones authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to solicit statements of qualifications, parens SOQ, and parens from qualified firms to serve as the city's Division of Engineering, and further authorizing the mayor following approval of the Board of Control to enter into a contract with the firm selected in the SOQ process and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2022-67, a resolution introduced by Mayor Jones authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to solicit statements of qualifications, parens SOQ, and parens from qualified individuals to serve as the city's grant writer, and further authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the individuals selected in the SOQ process and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2022-68, an ordinance introduced by Mayor Jones establishing the Fix Our Fronts storefront renovation grant program, and further authorizing the mayor to issue grants to approved grantees and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2022-69, an ordinance introduced by Mayor Jones authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of North Olmsted to enter into an agreement with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission to provide professional services associated with creating geographic information system, parens GIS, and parens-based zoning map, and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2022-70, a resolution introduced by Mayor Jones dispensing with the RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Osborne Engineering for the purpose of providing engineering services for the Great Northern Bridge Aesthetic Program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Councilman.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings for Resolution 2022-70, as there is administrative design work due in the immediate future, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for Resolution 2022-70 is made by Councilman Lippert and seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding Resolution 2022-70, please approach the podium now.
Mr. President, seeing none, I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-70 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2022-70 made by Councilman Lippert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-70 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on first reading, ordinance 2022-72, an ordinance authorizing the formation of a community improvement corporation as an Ohio nonprofit corporation, and furthering the mayor to file articles of incorporation and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2022-73, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an economic development agency agreement with the North Olmsted Community Improvement Corporation and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2022-74, a resolution authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to make application to the State of Ohio Public Works Commission for year 2023 State Capital Improvement Program funding for the South Interceptor Equalization Tank Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for Resolution 2022-74 with a time constraint for the grant money that we need to file for, and ask for a second.
I second.
The motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for Resolution 2022-74 is made by Councilman Scarrow and seconded by Councilwoman Gilchrist. Roll call, please.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding Resolution 2022-74, please approach the podium now.
Mr. President, seeing none, I move for adoption of Resolution 2022-74 and ask for a second.
I second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2022-74 is made by Councilman Scarl and seconded by Councilwoman Gilchrist. Roll call, please.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-74 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2022-75, a second resolution of City Council adopting the mayor's proposal for new program initiatives and capital improvements made possible by funds received by the City of North Olmsted from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2022-76, an ordinance repealing Resolution 2022-55 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, on behalf of myself and all of council, I introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review as this matter was heard and discussed in caucus this evening, and will repeal the previous resolution to outsource our dispatch services. As for second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for ordinance 2022-76 is made by Councilwoman Williamson and seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding ordinance 2022-76, please approach the podium now.
Good evening. Tom Austin, Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Executive Director, North Royalton, Ohio. I just wanted to thank you for your courage tonight in doing the right thing. We look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Mr. President, seeing no further comments, I move for the adoption of ordinance 2022-76 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2022-76 is made by Councilwoman Williamson and seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-76 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Moving into scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. Councilman Limpert, would you like to schedule a BZD meeting?
I would. I'd like to schedule it at 7 o'clock and the 7:20, ask that the Economic Development Director and any other mayor designees be present.
Thank you. And Councilman Glassbern, scheduling finance.
This Finance Committee will meet at 7:20 PM to consider 2022-75. And I would request that the mayor's designees for the appropriate subject matters be available as the mayor sees fit.
Yeah, thank you. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of August 16th, 2022 is adjourned at 8:35 p.m.